Hi everyone! In week 3, we talked about conductors and insulators and how they can both be polarized by an electric field. Conductors, such as metals or ionic solutions, are materials through which electric charges can easily move. So, if you place a conductor, such as an ionic solution, in an external electric field, the ions will feel a force from the electric field and will start moving around. The negative ions will move in the opposite direction from the field, and the positive ions will move in the direction of the external electric field. And this polarizes the solution since, the positive and negative charges are kind of moving in the opposite directions. The movement of the ions will actually create an internal electric field inside the solution, and it'll point in the opposite direction to the external electric field. And the net electric field in the solution is the sum of the internal and external electric fields. The ions will basically keep moving to opposite ends of the solution until the solution grows so polarized that the internal electric field created by this polarization will match in strength the external electric field. And then the net electric field inside the solution becomes zero. And also, because the solution is polarized, it has a dipole moment, which points in the direction opposite to the internal electric field. Insulators also respond to electric fields, but to a more limited degree, which doesn't really allow them to move charges over a large distance. So if you place an insulator in an external electric field, the temporary dipoles inside the material will align with the external electric field, where the positive end of the dipole will point in the direction of the external electric field and the negative end will point in the opposite direction. This creates a net dipole moment inside the material. However, the dipoles themselves can't really move around inside the material. They're fixed in one place. So this doesn't allow charges to move around inside the material over a long distance and conduct electricity and such. External electric fields in a material can be generated in a few ways. One way is placing the material next to a charged object, which causes the charges to separate on the material. This is known as induction. And another way is actually by direct contact with the charged objects. In my previous classes, we talked about things like conductors and insulators, and I knew that charges were mobile inside a conductor. For example, metal atoms, they all share their electrons, and they have a sea of electrons that basically move around from one part of the metal to another. However, I didn't think that positive charges could also float around inside a conductor, such as positive ions in the blood. And we didn't really talk much about insulators in my class, but now I learned that even in insulators, an external electric field will cause a slight shift in charges when the dipoles inside the material align with the electric field. Although these dipoles can't really travel over a long distance, so insulators can't exactly conduct charge. Now, something that particularly sparked my interest was when blood and other biological fluids like a cell's cytoplasm were mentioned as examples of conductors since they contain lots of electrolytes. That's because I'm really interested in medicine. So conductors and insulators actually feature a lot in the nervous system. A neuron is essentially an example of a conductor, which allows an electrical impulse to travel down the neuron and onto a target organ like the muscle and cause the muscle to contract. During depolarization, which is the event that sparks the start of an electrical impulse, sodium channels on the neuron's membrane open and positively charged sodium ions flood into the neuron. And because the neuron's cytoplasm contains a lot of water, which is a good conductor, the sodium ions can move around inside the neuron, which causes the positive charge to spread and more sodium channels to open and the propagation of the electrical impulse down the neuron. And on the other hand, the myelin sheath surrounding the neurons is an example of an insulator. It prevents ions from leaking out and weakening the strength of the electrical impulse inside the neuron. This week I feel like the videos did a great job explaining the concepts, so I wasn't really confused about anything yet. But I'm sure this will change when I get to the homework, so I'll probably use resources like the student wiki to help me get through. Well, thank you for watching.